Mother, man.
Hey, this is Shaun from Malice's Wake, and you're listening to Murder Metal Mayhem.
Spreading faster than a case of the clap in a trailer court. Able to shatter eardrums within a 666-mile radius. A podcast more brutal than all the rest. It's Murder Metal Mayhem! This is Pete Altieri, and I have the privilege of doing this interview with Shaun Farrugia, a guitarist and vocalist of In Malice's Wake, thrash death metal band from Australia. It's awesome to chat with you on Skype. Despite the pandemic, we're here at Murder Metal Mayhem and Horns High Studios. How's it going, Shaun?
Yeah, real good, man. It's a privilege to talk to you too. Thanks. It's a Sunday here, and just excited to talk about some metal and what we've been doing. So thank you.
That's awesome. I was surprised when I did the recent interview with your fellow Australian band Harlot. I talked with Andrew. He's the one that mentioned you guys, and I got to admit, I had not heard of you, but you can only listen to so many bands. I've been listening to bands forever. I didn't know of you and was completely blown away at your album, The Blindness of Faith. You guys just released it this year, and I was completely floored. So I'm sure our listeners are going to dig this, but what was it like recording that? I mean, it came out this year, but I didn't know what time this year it came out.
Yeah, first of all, thanks heaps. We're really proud of it, so I'm really glad you enjoyed it. And it's only been out for maybe 3 weeks at this point. And
okay.
It's actually been about 5 years since our previous album, Light Upon the Wicked, so it's been a fair gap in between releases, but we've got a pretty smooth recording process. I guess generally we've worked with the same producer for the last 3 releases, including a live one who's called Chris the Malco down in Melbourne. But we've been doing this for a long time, so it's all quite smooth these days. We basically do all the songwriting, which takes us maybe a bit longer than most bands. We like to take our time and get everything right. But then we do all our pre-production, record drums live in a really cool room out in the woods called Echidna Studios.
Oh, cool.
And basically, we take that back to our places, and we've got sort of pretty decent recording rigs at home where we capture the DIs of the guitar. So I'm not sure how much people listening know about recording, but traditionally people have just played in front of an amp and capture it with a microphone, and it's a pretty old school way of doing it, which is great. But what we do is we capture the signal from your guitar through the computer, get our takes just the way we want them, and then the producer can then run that signal back through an amp and try different amps and try different mic positions till it's just right. So we do a lot of that capturing at home, get all the guitars just right, and then once the guitars are done, come into the studio there for vocals, and spend weeks sort of layering them. And then I guess we go back and listen through the mixing process and do a whole bunch of tweaks, and slowly but surely it sort of starts to match what we pictured in our heads, and then we sign off on it. So it's pretty smooth and enjoyable, really.
That's awesome. Yeah, the new things you can do with recording are really amazing. I mean, just like this, you and I sitting here talking, our listeners are going to think we're kind of almost in the same room, but here we are literally a world away from each other. So it is amazing what you can do.
It's really bizarre, man. I sometimes sit and find myself doing something like we're doing, and you're all the way over there in the US, and it's just the wonders of technology, and even things like promoting your music, and we'll get sort of hits from Israel or Poland or just anywhere in the world, and it's just like, wow, people over there are just listening to this music I've just put up a few minutes ago. And there's a lot of negatives that come with the internet. The destruction of physical sales, but there's also a lot of benefits too, so you take what you can get.
I agree. I think it's really cool. I think when I first listened to Harlot, and I thought, holy shit, these guys sound like they're from San Francisco, and I realized they're from
Yeah, they do.
fucking Melbourne. I'm like, what? But then you think about it. Well, like I grew up in an era before the internet's listening to music in the '80s, so this is all even still new to me because when I was doing the band thing, it was still tape trading in the
Yeah, of
beginning
course.
days of it. So nowadays, I mean, there's no reason why a guy in Melbourne can't get turned on to a band from San Francisco literally instantly, just like
Yeah,
with what you're saying, listening to a live Facebook, feed of somebody jamming a new tune or whatever. And it's just amazing. It really is. But I
yeah.
agree there are downsides, but the upsides are being able to do stuff like this, become friends with somebody across the world just from a commonality of metal and that sort of thing. So
Yeah, it
pretty
really is
awesome.
unifying, and yeah, it just makes this huge global network, and it's it's pretty special, man. So I love it.
It is. It is. Now I assume that the album title has to do with organized religion and how people blindly follow that. But maybe I haven't looked at lyrics yet. But is there more to it, and is that kind of a concept on this one?
Yeah, so we've I guess through the history of the band focused on the evils of humanity and human nature, but yeah, this one specifically has religion as a focal point. We found there was a few tracks on the previous album that had that theme, and just as I was writing the lyrics for that, just felt like there was heaps more to explore. So this one still focuses on the dark side of humanity, but there's a specific focus on the part that religion plays in that, and
Right.
so we basically have blind faith being a umbrella concept for the album, but then each song focuses on a different area or part of history, or we've got some tracks are about the imperfection of the Bible and the contradictions and just all the things that don't add up, and then there's other tracks about specific stories like the Adam and Eve and the fruit of wisdom,
Right.
the whole storyline behind that. We've got other ones about the wealth of the church, and there's tracks about religious cults like the Jonestown massacre story. And
Yeah.
so every sort of track has a different focus of its own, but they're all unified by this concept of the horrible things that human beings can do when they've got a feverish faith in something that can't be proven, I guess.
I'm
On the flip
totally
side of
digging that.
it's been a really great topic to write about. It really works for our music. It's all quite dark and sincere, and it's been a really great topic to explore. And we don't have an issue with people having faith or anything like that.
Oh, sure.
It's a little bit more like if someone's going to peacefully practice their own faith and not have an impact on the lives of others, and it can really be a wonderful, fulfilling thing. And we'd never want to hear of anyone's freedoms to do that being impacted. But I think it's when those beliefs are taken somewhere sinister or used to enforce a belief on other people, or then you start to have some things going horribly wrong. So
Right.
it's more that area is what the album's lyrics have focused on specifically.
That's cool. I was checking out the one song you had a video for it. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing this right. Gehenna.
Yeah.
The last track on the new album blows my mind, first of all. But
Cool.
second of all, I was like, what the hell is that? So I Googled it, and it's a very interesting biblical story about somebody that burned their children, and then the ground was cursed or something to that effect. So I could definitely tell that there's a lot going on behind the scenes here with you guys with the topics you write about. That's really cool.
Yeah, thanks. Well, I like to really take lyrics quite seriously. For me, we release an album every 4 or 5 years, and I like being able to look back at it as a body of work that I'm really proud of, including the lyrics, which are really important as well. So do try and sort of research and spend some time getting it just right. But the idea for that song is there's a few definitions, but there was a big sort of trash fire southwest of Jerusalem, where they would get rid of all their prisoners and and the corpses would be thrown into this fire. And
Right.
the name Gehenna became sort of synonymous just for another word for hell. And we were jamming a song that I didn't quite have a topic yet in my head for, and sort of while I was playing with the guys in the rehearsal room, just thinking away, and I sort of thought, we've got all this work on faith, and all these people that put so much of their life and devotion into their faith, and what if you pick the wrong one and you end up getting punished by the right one? And, that's almost a little bit of a. I'm sure the believers would say it's all the same God, etc., and I'm aware of that. But
right.
The idea of someone devoutly following a certain religion then ends up at the gates and realizes that they were wrong and end up burning in this fire. So that was the
that might be a short story idea. I might take something.
Yeah, I'd love
I'll
to
credit
read it,
you with that.
Yeah, that'd be great. But,
that's funny.
Yeah.
That's interesting, though. Yeah, I've wondered the same thing. It's like your whole hog on this one specific slant of this story. What if you're wrong on like some pivotal part of it,
I'm not a gambling man, so it's a bit much for me.
Yeah, I'm with you. Now, I watched an interview with you where you talk about, some of your influences, Slayer, Sodom. It's funny because I sent my son a still shot of your new album, and I said, go check this out. And he commented back, he said, it reminds me of Sodom. And that was before I even said anything to him about it. So that was cool. I would agree, but I'm also going to throw Destruction on the pile and a little bit of old school death metal. Would you agree with, obviously all these bands are bands that are probably among your, influences, but what is it about kind of that conglomeration that you guys come up with as your own way? Because I'm saying I hear Sodom and Slayer, but I certainly don't mean that you're ripping anyone off. I think it's just part of your metal education that became in Malice's wake.
Yeah, that's very, very accurate, actually, man. We Sodom would be in my top 3 bands of all time, so it's really cool.
I think there's a Sodom shirt in one of your videos, I think.
yeah, there is. It's like second skin, that shirt. I wear it everywhere. But yeah, I don't know. We growing up sort of took the usual route of Metallica and Megadeth, and still really love those bands. But at some point along the way, the European, especially German thrash, really got in, and just something about the darkness and the rawness of Sodom, and even though the Destruction album's a little bit, produced in a weird way that makes them sound thin, they've still got this real darkness, and there's just something about those German thrash albums that really spoke to me. And I guess over time, it's just my tastes have sort of gone heavier and more grim. So there's a lot of a bit of Cannibal Corpse got in there too, but heaps of Deicide and
I was going to say Deicide, Morbid Angel,
yeah, Morbid Angel's a huge influence, and even like Vital Remains, and even some of the like Celtic Frost and Triptychon. So I've sort of listened to quite a lot of different styles of metal, I guess, but we've always predominantly been a thrash band. But as my tastes have gotten a little darker and heavier, that's naturally crept into the music because you're inspired by what you listen to and what you're finding.
I could hear it. I really like I said, I stumbled on you guys from stumbling on Harlot. When I hear Harlot, I hear a lot of Creator, and we talked about that, Andrew and I, about that influence. I love Creator. I love all the German thrash, though, and I definitely hear Sodom more with you guys, it's all great. It's all good stuff. Now, I was looking at the band lineup. Is that your brother or a cousin, Mark, that plays guitar in the band as well?
It's my brother. He plays the drums, yeah.
Oh, the drums. Okay. I thought he was the other guitar player. I'm sorry.
No, that's Lee. He's got long hair, and so it probably makes us look a little bit similar. But the drummer's my brother.
Oh, okay. The drummer's wicked. The whole band is wicked. Now, I think it's really cool, though, that you're playing in a band with your brother. And that's got to be, I'm sure, a little bit extra dynamic because, of course, you guys, growing up together, being in a band's almost like being married. So how does that complicate things, or does it help things with you two in the band?
To be honest, man, it's just been amazing. Me and Mark have always gotten along real well, and
that's good.
couple of sort of average high school bands early on, and then me and Mark started this. I don't know, it's probably closer to 18 years or something now. And back then he didn't even know how to play the drums. He was just sort of learning it as we begun the band, and he didn't have a drum kit for the first year. So I had sort of the Marshall amp, and I'd been playing guitar for a few years, but he had a few pillows set up in like the configuration of a drum kit, and he'd sort of like learn patterns, and then we'd go hire a kit at rehearsal studio and put it all together. But
wow, he's amazing, man. He's really good.
He's, I'd say he's easily the best musician in the band. He puts more time in than anybody else. He's got his own studio at the back and just is obsessed with drum playing. And
wow.
It's for me, I've got to spend as much time as we would have spent together anyway. We've had at least 4 times as much time together through being in a band and experiences, and we both love the same type of music. So we get to go to concerts together, and we just get to spend a lot more quality time, even on the road trips, than we would have otherwise. So yeah, I've really loved being in a band with my brother, and I think have so much together, so much in common, and just so much time together. You get a real feel for when you're playing in the same rooms. There's a real sort of dynamic that works. We both know what each other is going to do, how we feel about parts, and even when you're writing, we could say, that Morbid Angel part that works together like this, and he instantly knows what I'm talking about.
Right.
And, you just got this shared language, if that makes sense.
No, it does. It does. That's really, really cool. Now, I also read in an interview, is it you that does the art for the band as well?
Yeah, man. Yeah.
That's amazing, man. That was one of the first things that drew me to you, was the new album cover. I'm like, that's sick,
Oh, that's cool.
And I'm like, wow, this guy, because you don't hear about that a lot. When I did the interview not that long ago with Onslaught, their bass player does their artwork. So I was like now, I'm like, I think that's really cool. So
I didn't
how
know
does
that about Onslaught?
Yeah, I was blown away at that as well. Now, what other kind of art do you do? I mean, how much artwork are you involved with?
So for the band, I've done almost everything visually since the start. But I'm hugely into art and creating art. I'm currently a primary school art teacher as well.
I read
my day
that
job.
too. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's heaps of fun. So I've been doing that for the last 3 or 4 years, and for those kids, I try and sort of a lot of kids sort of grow up thinking art's really sort of stuffy and boring, or it's just craft. So we do a lot of skulls and dragons, and
cool.
It really captures a lot of young kids. But I've always sort of been into drawing, and I think about 10 years ago I took up the airbrush quite seriously, and ran a business for about 4 years where I was custom painting like Harley Davidsons and doing a lot of skulls and things like that.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, just sort of worked up my skills doing that. But recently tried to learn oil painting. So the cover of this latest album, is an oil painted canvas.
Oh, wow.
So it's been a real challenge, and I was a bit nervous because the artwork for our previous album, Light Upon the Wicked, was one of the only covers we've had commissioned by someone else. And we got this amazing guy called Nick Keller, who's a New Zealand artist, and he's worked for the Weta Workshop, who does a lot of the Lord of the Rings concept art, and he does amazing album covers. Yeah, so for me it was a real thrill to sort of get him on board and sort of give him a loose concept and see what he created. But I have always really loved doing the art for the band, so this time around I kind of wanted to take it back and try and do this one myself. So it was a real struggle. It's that album cover that you mentioned, it took me way longer than it probably should have. Just a lot of reworking. It was a second version I gave up on the first one, and just a lot of just bashing my head against a brick wall until it looked right.
It's amazing, man. It's stunning. So I'm very impressed that you're a man of many talents, which is a good thing. Now, what label are you guys currently on, and is it an Australian label, or I'm not familiar with who you guys are signed with?
No, we're actually currently just self-released, so a bit of a DIY approach. We were with Punishment 18 Records for the last release, and they were really good to us as well, but we decided to either go it alone because we've got quite a bit of experience promoting, especially at the moment we're using Michael Luder's through a company called Black Cruise to help us with promotion.
That's awesome.
But as far as getting things out there, we do all right on our own, and we sort of know how to design a campaign. And especially working with him, it's been really, really successful. We've had great sales, a lot of reach. But in amongst that, we did try. We always do to get a mid to high tier label this time around, and sent press kits out to everybody. And we sort of did that at the start of this year as the pandemic was starting to grow its legs. And I don't think it was the best time to go label shopping, so we really did struggle. Right. We just got to the point where I'd sent the second or third round of emails and said, well, basically if it comes to this date and no one's still shown any interest, then we'll happily release. Yeah, exactly, man.
Yeah, that's what I did in my time in Low 12, and there's nothing wrong with it at all. I think signing a bad deal is worse than no deal at all. I know there's been plenty of bands I've known over the years that got really burned, so it's not good. And you guys obviously, I mean, the production is stunning, so that's why I just assumed, some label put that out. So yeah, I think the timing was probably not the best for you. But,
no.
For everybody's life, I mean, I know, you've got a regular day job. I did all the years I played, and I couldn't have just up and left at the moment's notice like some people could. So maybe it's just as well, you could do what you want. You're not having to answer to anybody. You just create your music, and it goes as far as it goes, and you're having fun doing it. And I think there's something to be said for that.
Yeah, for me, part of what I love about being, self-managed is just that freedom to do things exactly the way you want to. And we push it pretty hard. Like we, always working on stuff, evenings and weekends. And, but we've got, I think between the band, 6 kids, between all of us. So for us, family always does come first, but we, beyond that, this is the most important thing there is to us. So it does limit us in terms of how much we can tour or things like that. But for me, being in this band, I've learned over the years, readjusted my priorities a little bit and work out what's important as you get a bit older. But I sort of want to still be able to be doing this by the time I'm, 50, 60, 70. And if you, if you forsake your family and push way too hard, then things just sort of fall apart. You've got to be able to do it in a way that's sustained and enjoyable. Because, like for me, it's a really great working environment. I've got 3 other guys that I just love hanging out with, love making music with, and if that means we put an album out every 4 years and tour on it as hard as we can, but still be able to keep producing music that we love, that's the main thing for me. So being self-managed really facilitates that in a really strong way.
That's awesome. Now, is it difficult for metal bands in Australia? I mean, obviously, even before the pandemic, I'm talking about, being that you guys are that removed from everyone else, does it make it more challenging, I'm assuming?
I think in terms of international touring, definitely, because you've got the added cost of, getting to wherever you're going from here initially. But I'd almost say the biggest challenge to being heard is just the saturation of the market. There's just so many metal bands out there at the moment, and the internet, like we were talking about before, has been wonderful for, I guess, leveling that playing field as far as location goes. We've got the same tools as anybody else in the world as far as promoting your music online. So I guess in a lot of ways we don't have many restrictions apart from actually being able to get on a bus and drive from city to city. But yeah, at the same time, like you'd never heard of us before. It's a pretty common thing for us to have not been known. But, with help with the promotion of this album, we've noticed the following just grow exponentially over the last few weeks. And so, yeah, I think it's physically moving around or, getting on a bus and touring. It definitely is more difficult from Australia. But, yeah, I haven't found it to be too limiting, beyond that. I'm sure labels, when they look at you as well, it's probably a lot more of a risk taking on a band from Australia. than someone from the domestic continent. But yeah, apart from that, I think it's not too much of a hindrance.
Yeah, that's good. Well, good points for sure. Now, talking about Andrew Hudson, a harlot, he was saying that Melbourne's kind of opening back up again. Now, you guys got down to, he said, 0 cases, and things are starting to open up. And it looked like you guys had some stuff coming up together, right? You guys doing a show with them?
I think we haven't got anything planned just yet because, we've got everything slowly opening up, which is amazing. So they've got a show coming up. I think we've got one coming up separately from them. But because our album's released, we're really tight with that band. Our guitarist Lee also plays in Harlot as well. So
I didn't realize that. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So that's really cool. But yeah, we sort of do a lot together. So we've definitely planned to look at doing our album launches together and possibly some Australian touring together.
That's fantastic. I thought about that. I was telling my wife, I said, God, this just sucks so bad because I'm just getting into these two bands. They're a world away, and it's like I can't even go. Even if I wanted to jump on a plane, they wouldn't let me in, So it's crazy.
That's right.
This time just sucks, it really does. But yeah, that's really awesome that you guys get together. And like I said, when I did the interview with him and I asked him, what are some other metal bands in Australia? And he was rattling them off, but he made a point to talk about you guys and your vocals. And that's what really made me, when we were done, go check you out. So I think that's just really awesome that you guys not only share a bandmate, but also are, just very complimenting. And you're definitely different, but you're fit enough to where I'm sure your fans are pretty compatible, with them. So that's just cool.
Yeah, and he's really cool. Like, people don't always pass on, your name when they get the opportunity to do so. And he's always helped us out, Hudson. He's been just a top bloke since as long as I've known him. And yeah, he's just... Harlot is one of those bands that just command a stage wherever they go. We've seen them with festivals that have been completely dead, and then those festivals come to life when they see that band. They're just so on fire, and they're so incredible live. And Hudson, as nice as he sounded in the interview with you, he's got this like wicked wit with the crowd. That
cool.
He just roasts anyone that opens their mouth, and it's just hilarious.
That's funny. That's funny. That's funny.
But yeah, they're a great band, man. They're one of many great bands we've got here, so we're lucky to be part of a thriving scene in Australia.
Yeah, I was asking him about the song they did on their album, the Cannibal Corpse cover, Time to Kill Is Now. I thought, man, that was pretty ballsy. Cool. And he was talking about, I was 16, and that was like the first song I heard from them. And I'm like, okay, now you're making me feel old because my band opened for Cannibal Corpse on that tour, and I was definitely not 16. So I was just like, God damn, but it's just cool to see younger people, 20-something years younger than me, listening to, the metal that he was listening to. We were talking about, Creator and bands like that. And you don't hear a lot of younger guys digging on bands like that. So that's just really cool for me. He definitely seems like a good guy.
Yeah, I think one thing I've sort of come to realize about metal is just got this very, sort of like it's a timeless quality. It's
true.
People getting into it for the first time now seem to still be drawn to the same, they sort of take in the whole of all of it at once. So, new fans will slowly dig their way back and listen to, the earliest Sabbath and before, and then everything leading up to it. And every decade it's got its own flavor. So, a lot of most of my favorites come from the 80s. And then, I don't know, we sort of, as metalheads, I guess, just seem to inherit a love for the genre as a whole, and this excitement about digging back through and finding releases. And you find you have so much in common with people, 10, 20 years your senior, or 10, 20 years your junior, and it's a really great unifying thing.
That's a good point. Now, I watched a couple of your music videos, so if we've got any listeners out there that want to check these guys out, there are some out there on YouTube, but what was it like doing those? There was one that, the one for Gehenna, that featured, was that your artwork in that video?
Yeah, man.
Because I love that. I love the way you did that. First of all, I love the song and I love the video. It was like perfect, but it was so cool. And I was going to ask you, I assumed it was your art, but but I would just love the way you guys did that. How did that all come together?
Thanks, man. So we've sort of, I guess, been in lockdown, and video is just such a great way to promote your music these days.
Yeah.
And so part of the campaign that we did, we wanted 3 music videos, and by the last one, to be honest, it was really just a case of wanting to put that song out there, having a collection of artworks that I'd done that we'd used for merchandise and booklets. Just there's a lot of sort of single color fine liner artwork, and so I've been learning a lot of video editing through this process and put our last few clips together. And so it was just I guess putting the visuals that really worked with the themes of that song together, and then a bit of dynamic lighting, and the first couple of cuts I sort of had all like extracts from reviews written all over it, and coming soon and all this sort of crap. And my wife's really she's got a really I guess critical eye for things in terms of design and editing, so she's been a great help. She
that's cool.
watched she watched the first few cuts, and she goes, sort of got through the end of it, but I didn't hear what the song sounded like. I was too busy reading all these bits and pieces that were flashing up. I realized she was right, so I stripped it right back, so it was just really slow, sort of dynamically lit cuts of the artwork, but stripped it back. She's been great with all our clips. Just been able to show it to her, and it's always like nervous showing her this cut, because I'm hoping she'll just say, "Oh, it's great, it's done." But she never says that. It's always like, "All right," she gives me a page of notes, and by the end of going through the notes, it's always 100 times better. So she's really awesome.
Well, that's funny, because my wife is my editor, so I completely understand. She goes through with the red pen. I'm like, God damn, it's that bad.
Yeah, that's right. She has to tell me.
Bring you back down to reality.
Exactly.
Now, how has the lineup changed for the band since you guys have been going? Have you been pretty consistent? I didn't go back and look at that.
Yeah, we've been lucky to have some really, I'd call it three different solid lineups that we've had, and considering we've been around for probably 18 years now, it's pretty good.
Yes.
We originally had a bass player and a guitarist who were great, and we sort of did an EP and our first album with them, and then we finished up with that bass player, and we got and guitarist actually, and then for it's a bit of crossover, but basically our second album, The Thrashing, we had a new bass player and new guitarist, and we kept that lineup for about 6 or 7 years, really solid, toured Australia with it, and I handed over a lot of the management at that time to the bass player, who did an amazing job. It was this powerhouse of a dude called Luke, and he really sort of took the band, I guess, from whatever status we were to just to a whole new level, at least here within Australia, like touring every city, state that was worth touring, and just working our asses off and really building a following. And there's been a few small like features done on that time. It seemed like that tour had an impact on a lot of bands that followed, which is really cool. But I guess a few years after sort of that era, he and guitarist Dave, I guess they sort of lost interest a little bit, and we had a bit of a crossover period where me and Mark, the drummer, were a little bit frustrated because we wanted to do a lot of things, but Dave and Luke, just the fire just sort of went out over time for those guys, and they're just both really sort of passionate, wonderful players, so it's sort of something felt a little bit off in this sort of in-between period, so we just realised that they'd sort of fallen out of love with it a little bit, or I think it might have been more just a little bit, they wanted to see the band progress a lot faster, where it become our day jobs, and we're just fighting things in the music scene in Australia. It was hard to grow it to that level. So I think maybe they sort of just became a little bit disenchanted with the I guess the lofty dreams that we all have as young musicians. And so then after they finished up, me and Mark were still pretty excited about doing it. We always have been, and we got our current guitarist Lee and bass player Carl. They actually both were recommended together. They just moved in from country town, and both looking for bands, and so we sort of managed to snap both those guys up at once, and they were instantly became best mates with those dudes. We'd go around for tea at their place. They're just incredible players. We're into the same stuff, and since then we've done a live album with them, just countless shows and 2 full lengths, and I can't see us changing a lineup at all from this point. Just
That's
really
awesome.
great, solid unit, man.
That one album, The Thrashing, has got to be one of the coolest album names I've ever heard. It's like, nice. Yeah, that's what I told my son in the text I sent him. I'm like, check this band out. And by the way, they have an album called The Thrashing. Go check it out. Yeah, it's just funny.
That's cool.
Yeah, I love that shit.
We were out at a drunken night out at one of our pubs down here, and there's actually a guy called Mav who plays in a band from Melbourne, sort of melodic thrash band called Envenomed, that sort of coined that term down
cool.
at the pub. So I'll credit him with that one, but it's sort of renamed festivals after that, and then our album after that. And
that's awesome.
It's cool.
It is cool. Now, what's behind the band name? It's definitely unique. I was curious if there's anything behind it, or if it was just one of those sounded cool and you guys decided to call the band In Malice's Wake.
It's we struggled with the band name initially, and even after having it all these years, it's a mouthful. I hate being at the pub and someone says, "What's your band called?" There's noise on. You say, "In Malice's Wake," and they always say, "What?" And then it's just it's so wordy, but we've grown to love it. Basically, it's like being left in the wake of all this evil. So our songs focus mainly on the evils of humanity and the dark side. So I guess it's a reference to once humanity's evil sort of run its course. It's like being left in the wake of what's left behind.
Oh, that's cool. I like that. When I first heard it, I didn't catch it either, and then I Googled it and I found it that way. But but I love it. I mean, it's very unique. That's what I like about it. So it's just
thanks.
Cool.
We actually toyed with changing it about halfway through the band's career, just for the reasons of it being a bit of a mouthful, and tried all these different things on, and just nothing felt right. And we'd already been doing the band for about 8 years, and something about the name just felt like home, and it become synonymous with what we do. And so we ended up just keeping it, redesigning the logo, and it's definitely ours to stay.
That's cool. Yeah. That's cool. Now, I know we were talking before the interview that you're into Clive Barker, which I am too. Love the Books of Blood and all that stuff. I also saw that you liked H.P. Lovecraft, which I like his horror, not as much the sci-fi, but I do like the horror stuff. And I don't know if I mentioned to you, but I'm doing a redo of The Thing on the Doorstep. I'm modernizing it. I'm actually in the middle of writing it right now, and I've already did a version, which I think is one of the ones I sent you, the Eyes Have It, which is my remake of The Telltale Heart. But I wanted to do that on this next book I'm working on as just something different I've never done before. But the Lovecraft one has been a lot of fun. But you read the Eyes Have It. What did you think of that?
I really enjoyed it, man. You got a really great writing style. So there's something about the way it all starts off. It's you got the first person, the guy there going through. It sounds like a normal guy, but just slowly you start to realize how fucked up he is.
Right.
But just the creeping horror that grows as it
Cool.
kills his first. I don't want to give too much of your story away, but
okay.
I really like the slowly the descent into more and more
madness,
horrific grimness, and then it got to the end. You got the a few choices on how it ends, and I read through them both. It was really enjoyed it. And
cool.
I think as I was reading it through, I'm like hearing the heartbeat, it reminded me of that story, and then you sort of had the explanation at the end as well. So I really love the way you modernize that. And the other one, the
666 Express.
Yeah, that was great too. Just,
that's cool.
The way they escalate, I think I really enjoyed. They they always start off calm or not calm, but it's just got a certain everything's okay, but
picking
it's
up the tempo.
That's it. It's not going to end well.
No, not at all. Not at all. Well, I wanted the 666 Express to be a little campy almost, in the beginning with the dry ice and the babes with the devil costumes on, and then they get inside and it's like, oh, this is all cool. And then the door shuts, and then it's like, okay, the fun's over. Now you're literally going to hell, motherfucker. You know, so.
That's I really enjoy that, man.
That's cool. And I use the guys, all the characters in that story are guys from our podcast. And what we're doing with that story is I've got a friend that's a real good voiceover guy. He's going to do the narrator, and then we're each going to read our speaking parts for that. And that'll be our Christmas. Story? For the Christmas episode this year. So that's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm going to put the heartbeats in there and stuff too. So,
that's awesome.
So it's going to be a lot of fun. But what are the plans moving forward with the band? I mean, I know COVID puts a lot of things up in the air, but is there anything beyond? I mean, obviously, you just put an album out, so you're trying to promote it.
Yeah, that's right. So, we I guess tentatively planning forward. We are going to keep pushing, the album quite hard online for the next couple of months, just as you do. The reception's been wonderful so far, but we have a show, like we said, the venues are just starting to open where you can have 100 people, including bands and crew, in a place, and have like seated shows. So a lot of bands have been doing that here, just as we're cautiously opening up. So we should have one of those to announce for early Jan. But beyond that, we obviously want to be playing this in front of a lot of people. So we will, of course, do a hometown launch show, which are always massive. And beyond that, I think restrictions will start to ease between our borders here interstate. So we'll definitely hit at least the major cities here in Australia. And then, fingers crossed, we'll look to international. We've never ventured to the US, Europe, or Asia, and we actually had slotted an Asia tour in the middle of last year that we'd started planning, and that got canned. So we will likely, pick up those plans. I guess it really just depends on which countries seem to be open enough to be able to tour, but we really want to sort of make take the plunge and finally do some proper international touring on this album. I'm hoping that because there's such a delay between release and tour, that at least people will know a lot of the new songs and have had time to sort of really ingest the new album, so that when we finally do get to play those songs live, it'll be a little bit of a celebration of the album.
That's awesome.
But I guess that's the plan, and we've already started writing the next one, so we'll just keep moving into that, and
Fantastic.
Hopefully this one won't be a 5-year gap in between.
Right. Now, any podcasts that you listen to now? I mean, I know you're now a Murder Metal Mayhem fan, but beyond Murder Metal Mayhem, what if any are you listening to?
I listen to heaps of podcasts. I love them. As far as metal goes, I really like, I don't know if you know the Requiem heavy metal podcast.
Yes.
Those guys do I'm listening to the thrash ones at the moment, but they just go into albums and dissect. And I just really love the way those guys sort of get into their music. It's just non-pretentious, just really well discussed metal podcast. I'm really into motorbikes, so listen to a lot of podcasts on that. I really like there's like Harley Heaven Rumble. There's Law Abiding Biker, Loud Pipes. I love Dan Cullen's Hardcore History is awesome. Really like Joe Rogan's podcast, Bill Burr, if I'm looking to laugh a bit. And even I don't know, it's just such a list.
There's so many good ones out there. That's cool.
A lot of really good art ones actually. I really like. There's one called the Dark Art Society podcast, and they have a lot of focusing especially on sort of more grim themes, but there's a lot of tattooists, there's a lot of oil painters, musicians, but it's a really I like hearing how different people in different fields sort of create their things, so that's a really good one too. And, Your Creative Push is another one, so I could go on all day, man. It's like,
sure.
So much time, whether you're painting or driving to work. It's apart from listening to metal, I'm just always got a podcast in my ear. It's awesome.
Right. Well, that's good. Now, I asked Andrew this same question. I got to ask you. You're from Australia. Got to ask. How can I not? Men at Work made Vegemite a thing to the rest of the world, and he explained to me what this is, which it sounds friggin' disgusting, but he said it's really good, but it's definitely an acquired taste. What is How can you describe this to our U.S. listeners that have never had Vegemite? Because it sounds disgusting.
Yeah, I love it. But so I guess if you picture the taste of it, it's pretty intense. Like it's pretty sort of salty. It's got like I don't know, a kind of yeasty tang to it, which even as I'm saying it, it sounds really gross. But you got to picture like, you get your toast warm, you slather it with butter so it's real properly melted, and then you just got this hint of sort of saltiness with it. And yeah, you eat it like that, and something about it just works. Yeah, that's probably my take. And people, while it's fresh in my head, just I'd love to give a shout out to, we've got a guy here who does a podcast called the Andy Social Podcast.
Yeah.
And yeah, just in my last question, I would have loved to have mentioned that as well. He's awesome as well. Great variety of guests.
Oh,
so
sure.
Sorry to bring that one back.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. Now, how can our listeners support In Malice's wake? Buy some merch, websites, that sort of thing, just to make sure our listeners check you guys out.
Yeah, look, for us, just even having an audience is a really great help for us. So we've got all our music up on Spotify. We've got a really active YouTube channel. We're all over the Facebook page. So if anyone wants to follow us via any of those, you can just search In Malice's Wake and we'll pop straight up. Instagram the same. But probably the biggest thing that helps us is people buying merch. And I've just put together a store just with HTML coding. So people just go to inmaliceswake.com/store.html. It's got all of our merch, apparel, CDs. We've got a heap of new bundles for the album, and we've also managed to a mate of ours helping us out with shipping. So we've got it as discounted as possible for our international customers. I mean, people can get a CD posted for 30 Australian, which it's not nothing either, but it's it's affordable, I guess.
Yeah.
So we've really tried to keep that cost down.
That's cool. Well, I'll link to all these in the episode description. So if you're listening to this podcast, check the episode description and I'll link to all this stuff there.
Thanks, man. That would be a big help.
Of course. Now, is there anything you'd like to add, Shaun? We've talked for a while. This has been a really fun interview. Anything you want to add that we didn't talk about the band or anything?
Not really, man. For me, I just always take the opportunity to say thanks to everyone that supported us. I mean, you with your time this morning, but then we've got a lot of people that have supported us for years, a lot of people that have just jumped on board with this new album. Really, there's something about putting your music out there and people taking the time to listen, and if they like it, when you hear back that they enjoy it or share it with their friends, it really just, we do this because we love it, but there's something about hearing from people that also love it and support what you're doing that just means a real lot. So I just want to say thanks to anyone that supported us. Cheers to anybody listening, and if you like what you heard, please let us know. It really means a lot. And I'll say cheers to Hudson again for putting you on to me as well. Really appreciate that too.
That's awesome. Now, thanks so much for doing this interview, Shaun, with us here, Murder Metal Mayhem. Everyone, go out and get this new album, The Blindness of Faith. It's amazing. Good luck to you and in Malice's wake. Definitely don't be a stranger. And I'd like to do something I haven't done before at an interview, is tag out with one of your songs from the new album and let you make the pick. Which one do you want our listeners to hear to get a representation of what the new album's about?
Oh, a tough one. I might put one that we haven't put out on our videos yet. Maybe track 3, which is See the Light. It's got a nice sort of slow, moody intro, but the rest of it's just straight up thrash, and it's got a lot of cool shit going on in the choruses. So, all right. That'd be really great, man.
That's a good one. All right. Well, here you go. Check this out and go get into In Malice's Wake.
man.